Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Sandy Farlow and one of your worship team. We welcome you to Community Unitarian Universalist Church. We gather today from our many locations and with diverse spiritualities, committed to the creation of a community of love and justice. We value brave, curious, and compassionate thought and action, and we strive to answer the calls of service and peace. CUUC is a welcoming congregation, open and affirming the worth and dignity of every person. We seek to welcome your whole self, your truths, your doubts, your fears and hopes, your tears and laughter. We're glad you're here on this extraordinary adventure of faith in the search for truth and meaning. Leave aside the little thoughts that distract you, for this place, like all places, is a holy place, and now, like all times, is a holy time. Join with this community of seekers, and together, let us find. Jan Scott will light our chalice.
Spirit of light and life, be present with us this hour as we gather in a wider search for truth and purpose, insight and joy.
let us bring our focus here to this room, to this group of people, and to this moment. We bring a myriad of talents, ideas, needs, and styles. Yet within this diversity, there is a common bond between us. We know that we do not have to think alike to love alike. We have a code of conduct, a covenant, that we remind ourselves each Sunday as we say together, "Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and freedom, and to help one another." So spiritual and soulful, witty and wise. That is not only the description of our first book, but of the woman who comes to tell you about it. This is Valerie Gomes. Good morning, Val.
Good morning. Good morning. Some of you out there may know that I am a birder, enjoy it, and that's what attracted me to this book. When I saw it sitting there's an owl on it. But it's not just about birding. It's about a spiritual quest for the author, Sam Cain, who was raised in a strict Scottish Presbyterian household in the South. He was born in the 30s, and he discovered birds. He was a strange, shy child, so he loved the idea of birds, and by the time he was 10, he knew he wanted to be an ornithologist. But this is what he says. "I offer this account of glimpses of the sacred that have occurred in my encounters with certain birds, snakes, and other creatures in the hope it may be useful to others who are in quest of the places, experiences, and metaphors that undergird the sense of the sacred." And so in the beginning, it says, was the indigo bunting. He had been, recording birds around the neighborhood, and he had almost worn out his book of Birds of America. But he suddenly thought, I want to see something exotic, something you don't see every day in my neighborhood. So he settled on the indigo bunting, which no one in his town or his church or his school had ever seen. Finally, it happened. It was May 29th, 1942. There, perched at the top of a thicket, was the fabled ultramarine blue indigo bunting. Time stopped. The woods evaporated and left me standing awestruck in the presence of the holy bunting. I slipped into a state of grace, where I felt honored by a magical being that had previously only inhabited the mythical world of my Birds of America. At the same time, I was completely at ease and felt a sense of the wilderness was my true home. And then he says over here, because of his background in the church and the feelings he felt out in the woods, he said, at the age of 10, I was already experiencing my first religious spiritual identity crisis. In his family, Christianity was the way, the truth, and the life. His feelings that he had out in the woods didn't exactly go along with that. And the indigo bunting was the first of many slant revelations and incarnate metaphors that spoke to me of the primal sacredness of life. They formed the basis of my creed, as expressed by D.H. Lawrence. There is a sixth sense, the natural religious sense, the sense of wonder. And when he was a little older in school, he had a teacher that just loved to bird, and they did a lot of birding together, and the cardinal was their favorite. And some of the people talked about how come this young, probably junior high student, was hanging around with his teacher out in the woods, who was in her 20s. But anyway, he kept in touch for a long time, and then he tried to reconnect with her years later and found out that she had passed. But he had this little writing here, because the cardinal was their favorite bird. Dear Miss Beach, the cardinal is still crimson as the blood of life and stronger than death. And he was out in the woods, and he said, it wasn't just birds, but he also learned lessons from a rattlesnake. The rattlesnake, most of the people he grew up with would have killed it, but he sat down and watched it. And he thought about, this may be an awesome creature who reminded me that we thrive or perish as members of a single sacred commonwealth. It said, any entity, person, or event may become sacramental, whether a dead sapsucker, a living rattlesnake, or the prophets of old. It is the moon, not the finger pointing at the moon, that calls us back to ourselves. And later on, his mother was in her 90s, so this might have been when he was older. The only prayer together in our house, when he's living with his mother, was grace before meals. And she ends with, in Jesus' name, and I end with, bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies. And he says, we are the grass of the field. We flourish for a season and then fade. Death wipes us out, yet we are part of a totality that death cannot eradicate. I was, am, and will forever be a particle within a resurrecting cosmos. My DNA was included in the Big Bang. The blossoming of time, space, and multiplicity intended me, and I will be part of the unfolding, flowering, and closing of time. I exist within the Alpha and the Omega. And this is what he says at the end. The secret of life is in plain sight. If we observe with reverent eye, we may realize that all events, persons, and things are at once ordinary and sacred. The miracle of the bread and wine is the bread remains bread, and the wine remains wine, and an indigo bunting may be enough to inspire a never-ending quest for the sacred. Thank you.
can be dangerous. The best ones should be labeled, "This could change your life." Bob Bliss has something to say about that. Come on up, Bob.
It's nice to see you all here this morning. When I heard that Sandy was asking for people to report on a life-changing book, one book came to mind immediately for me, and you're about to hear how it changed my life. The book is Many Lives, Many Masters by Weiss. It was published in 1988, and I read it in 2010, over 20 years after it was published. How did this book change my life and change me, you may ask? Well, to help explain that, let me take you back a few years. For 30 years, I'd been sitting in the congregation like you are, enjoying the Sunday services, participating in any way I could. And then one Sunday, I was in the pulpit a few years back, delivering the entire Sunday service on how hospice volunteer work had made me a more spiritual person. And that certainly was life-changing. I never dreamed I would be doing that. But that's jumping ahead a few years. Let me go back to when I first read the book. It was 15 years ago when I became a hospice volunteer. Each week I would spend time, a few hours, simply sitting with hospice clients, listening, just being present. And one day I was talking to a member at church about how difficult yet fulfilling I found that work to be. And the friend listened intently and said, "I have a book you should read that may benefit you when you visit your hospice clients." My friend explained that it is the story of a renowned psychiatrist, Weiss, and his patient, Catherine, who suffers from extreme anxiety and fear. The doctor begins with traditional treatment therapy but does not have any success. So when those traditional therapies do not work, the doctor decides to try hypnosis therapy to take the patient back to their childhood, where he believes he will find repressed memories of traumatic childhood experiences that will explain the anxiety and fear. To his surprise, though, as he takes Catherine back in time, Catherine remembers events from a life 4,000 years ago in Egypt. And that's how the book began. Wow! I thought, this is going to be an interesting read. I'm not sure I believe in reincarnation, but I found the book to be a page turner, and I couldn't put it down. The book is, this is the latest copy, 200 pages, very easy reading, where you get to witness past life regression therapy between Dr. Weiss and Catherine. During the sessions and under deep hypnotic state, Catherine begins recalling past life traumas that seem to be linked to experiences from her many lives as both a male and a female. And when she is able to experience these past life episodes, Catherine makes noticeable signs of improvement with her anxiety and fear. But in addition to recalling past lives, Catherine becomes a channel for messages from what she calls the masters. And the masters identify themselves as highly evolved spirits and entities, and they deliver profound messages about life, death, and the purpose of human existence, if you're wondering. And the masters then, speaking through Catherine, deliver a very detailed message to Dr. Weiss about his deceased father, his deceased son, with revelations that only the doctor knows and has never talked to anybody about in his life. And that's when the doctor becomes convinced that all these hypnotic things she's been going through which he attributed to fantasy, may not be fantasy. And after 18 months of therapy, both Dr. Weiss and Catherine agree that Catherine is doing so well and feeling so much better that no more hypnosis therapy is needed. It took Dr. Weiss another year and a half to decide to take the professional risk of revealing this unorthodox information. And he decided that no possible consequences to his career could be as devastating as not sharing the information he had gained. It took another 4 years for him to write the book. And on another level, Many Lives, Many Masters was a breakthrough text in psychiatric medicine. It presented a thorough case study of successfully using past life regression as an alternative psychotherapy treatment. Dr. Weiss and Catherine's sessions began in 1980, 45 years ago. And at that time, past life regression therapy was not being practiced by a mainstream psychiatrist. As I read the book, I recall having to open my mind, really open my mind, and not question every little thing I read that messed with my belief systems about reincarnation. But my friend was right. The book did benefit me during my years as a hospice visitation volunteer. And in addition to that life-changing Sunday morning in the pulpit, I found this book to be a key that opened a door to a new room. The new room I entered completely changed my life and my worldview as I became a student of this spiritual mystery that we call life. During the years that have passed, other people who had had metaphysical experiences came into my life and became mentors and teachers. Uncanny synchronicities started to occur, and I read many more metaphysical books. My favorite metaphysical books are the ones written by successful professional scientists and doctors, career-minded people, left-brain thinkers, and skeptics like me, who, during their professional careers, have some metaphysical experience happen to them that ends up changing their lives, their belief systems, and the direction of their careers. Now today, I find that my personal belief system has plenty of room for reincarnation. After all, reincarnation, though not scientifically proven, helps me explain these young, exceptionally talented individuals and geniuses in the world. And when dealing with others on an interpersonal level, I often ask myself, I wonder what their past life was that makes them who they are today. And then I've been thinking, ever since I read the book 15 years ago, every day almost, why am I acting this way? What did I bring in here? But the biggest belief change in my life is the fear has disappeared. I have no more fear that my soul's existence will end when this body ceases to function. The book obviously offers a unique perspective on life, death, and the afterlife. So if you consider yourself to be an open-minded skeptic, you might enjoy it too.
Anne Lamott says, reading and writing decrease our sense of isolation. They deepen and widen and expand our sense of life. They feed the soul. When writers make us shake our heads with the exactness of their prose and their truths, and even make us laugh at ourselves or at life, our buoyancy is restored. We are given a shot at dancing with, or at least clapping along with, the absurdity of life, instead of being squashed by it over and over again. This next book is not about improving your nutritional health. Betsy Friauf, who knows a little about writing and reading, tells me it's about overcoming negativity and getting your life on track. Betsy?
Ah, yes, the magic clicker.
The magic clicker.
Thank you so much. Well, yes, thank you all for being here today, and I'm well aware that I'm pretty much all that's standing between you and the great food that's in Founders Hall. So I'll be brief. And as Sandy said, I do want to make clear this is not a book about dieting, even though it is called The Joy Diet. The subtitle is, and I don't know if you can read it, 10 Daily Practices for a Happier Life. And it's not about what we eat, it's about what we feed our heads. So let's talk about self-help. So Amazon categorizes the Joy Diet as self-help and motivational. Those are two categories I usually don't like, but this book is different. And I don't love Amazon either, but that's another story. So let's see what we have here. I'm going to skip ahead. This is Martha Beck, the author. She's a life coach. That's something I thought was absurd until I needed one. And she's also a PhD sociologist. I think at least one of her degrees was from an Ivy League school. I can't remember which right now. She also has written about being subjected to awful things in her growing up years. She's written about leaving the Mormon faith, but that's another story. So the edition of the Joy Diet that I read, it's a little book, you see, that I read and took notes in and put sticky notes in. It came out in 2003, so like Bob, I'm still finding great inspiration from a book that was written some time ago. Since it came out, it has been updated several times. So when I was leading a weight management club in Fort Worth years ago, we used this book as a common read because, as you know, you can't deal with what you're eating until you deal with what's eating you. So let's talk about life-changing stuff. And I'm so glad, Sandy, that you framed today's presentations around books that can change our lives, because I do believe that happens. So, but in recent years, it has seemed to me that it's pretty often I hear people say that something has changed their life. Quote, "This new coffee changed my life." "I have a new housekeeper and she changed my life." "I stopped wearing the red MAGA hat and it changed my life."
Yay!
Well, maybe that one would change someone's life. So what really is a life-changing event? So insurance says a life event is a divorce, a new child born or adopted, that sort of thing. I'd also say losing a job, starting a new one, can be a life-changing event. Moving, especially if it's to a new city, getting married or committing to a relationship in another way, or finally finding a way to manage physical or mental illness or whatever's eating us. Now, let's see if I can use the clicker correctly. I provided the slides to Sandy and our wonderful AV team in the wrong order. So anyway.
Sorry.
Oh, no, it was me. So I wouldn't exactly say this book changed my life, but it changed the way that I think about my relationships, my work, my possibilities, changed my thinking about what I can do. Changing the way I think about things and the frame that I put around events, the way I feel empowered to react, that did help me change slowly as a person. And so it wasn't a Shazam moment, but Martha Beck provided me a toolkit to keep my life projects moving. So as you see, these are the chapters of her book. These are her 10 daily practices, and you see here what they are. Now, most important for me was dealing with risk and fear. Risk and fear have become much more urgent for me in the past 7 months. Something happened about 7 months ago. Something happened nationally. Anyway, so here's a sample. I'll read you a brief sample. She writes, and this is in the chapter about risk, quote, "Every day do at least one frightening thing that contributes to the fulfillment of your desires." Now, I'm scared of a lot of things. First of all, I'm scared to be up here in front of you today. I know you're all friendly, but just microphones do that to me. Anyway, right now I'm scared to reconnect with a treasured friend from yesteryear who has very limited resources, because I worry that I won't know how to help her through a difficult medical situation that she's going through, and that then I'll feel guilty. Another thing that troubles me, I deeply want to start being an observer in immigration court. That's a project that's being launched here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But I'm scared that I'll act out angrily if a person who's brought before the judge is treated badly. Now, what the Joy Diet helped me see, though, is that the fear I need to manage is the fear of my own feelings. So why did it take me 50 years to get there? I was about 50 when I read the book. Oh no, now I'm scared I may be a slow learner. But I also think that if we can look at ourselves with a little bit of self-deprecating humor once in a while, it helps us get through. So anyway, Martha Beck, about risk and fear, she provides in this little book a risk assessment in 4 steps. And the last item is, quote, "Ask yourself, at the end of my life, which will I regret more, taking this risk and failing, or refusing to take it and never knowing whether I would have succeeded or failed?" And she walks us through all the 10 daily practices, and it's kind of a workbook as well as just reading material. There are places that you can fill in your own thoughts and your own needs. So I enjoyed this book, and I hope that you do too.
The power to be found between the pages of a book is formidable. Indeed, good books comfort, challenge, and inspire us. For, as author Anna Quindlen says, books are the plane and the train and the road. They are the destination and the journey. You know, it doesn't matter what you read, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, whodunits or chick lit, biographies or scientific investigations. Every book is an adventure. Go in hope, for the arc of the universe is long, and we can bend it toward justice. Go in courage, for together we have the strength to confront injustice in our daily lives and the larger world. Go in love, because a holy and generous love is both the reason and the means by which we transform our lives.